we had a very productive meeting. There were many, many points that we agreed on, most of them, I would say, a couple of big ones that we haven't quite gotten there, but we've made some headway. So there's no deal until there's a deal. I will call up NATO in a little while. I will call up the various people that I think are appropriate, and I'll, of course, call up President Zelensky and tell him about today's meeting. It's ultimately up to them. They're going to have to agree with what Marco and Steve and some of the great people from the Trump administration who've come here, Scott and John Ratcliffe, thank you very much. But we have some of our really great leaders. They've been doing a phenomenal job.
Still, he understands that Russia has its own national interests. I expect that today's agreements will be the starting point, not only for the solution of the Ukrainian issue, but also will help us bring back business-like and pragmatic relations between Russia and the US. And in the end, I would like to add one more thing. I'd like to remind you that in 2022, during the last contact with the previous administration, I tried to convince my previous American colleague that the situation should not be brought to the point of no return when it would come to hostilities. And I said it quite directly back then that it's a big mistake. Today, when President Trump is saying that if he was the president back then, there will be no war. And I'm quite sure that it would indeed be so. I can confirm that. I think that overall, me and President Trump have built a very good, business-like and trustworthy contact. And I have every reason to believe that moving down this path, we can come, and the sooner the better, to the end of the conflict in Ukraine. Thank you.
Damn, I bet the Democrats hate hearing that. Putin himself said, yes, I confirm what Trump said. If he was still president when Biden took over, there would be no wars. Trump's been saying this so many times, and now Putin coming to Alaska telling the world, hey, yeah, Trump, what he said is right. There would be no wars. Because under Biden, it didn't work out. He didn't want to agree to certain terms. Biden wasn't even running the country. We don't know who was.
The Russians are pretty happy with the way that the Trump-Putin summit in Alaska went down. Russian media celebrating what they call the historic handshake between the two leaders, also noting the friendly way that President Trump received Vladimir Putin there on the tarmac in Alaska. And of course, one of the things that's also showcased by Russian media is that President Trump and Vladimir Putin rode together in President Trump's limousine, the Beast. Now, the spokeswoman for Russia's foreign ministry, she came out and said, look, the West for 3 years has been saying that Russia is isolated, and now they see President Putin on the red carpet on American soil. Then you have the former Russian president, and he said that he believed that big things had been achieved for Russia. First of all, he said that the threat of massive sanctions that President Trump had put out there before the summit, that seems to be off the table, at least for the time being. He also says that there seem to be mechanisms in place for talks without any sort of threats and preconditions. And most importantly for the Russians, they also say that they believe that now the negotiations process can move forward while their military operation in Ukraine also continues as well. That is, of course, the thing that Vladimir Putin has always said. He wanted not a quick ceasefire, as President Trump said he wanted before, but negotiations for a larger peace agreement in the future.
Tell me this wasn't a badass move by Trump. You know they orchestrated that. You know they said, hey, as soon as we get off the planes and I shake hands with Putin, as we're walking down the red carpet, I need you guys to do a flyover to show off our Air Force. Oh my God, that was pretty dope. I like that.
All we have been able to see so far is the first couple of moments, really the pageantry of both men leaving their planes, shaking hands on the red carpet. But I do think there's a lot of meaning in those first moments. Charlie, I think that those moments, quite honestly, at least in aesthetics, were owned by President Trump. I mean, he literally towered over Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
He seemed like the host. He is the host. And the B-2 bombers flying overhead were an incredible display of strength.
That was amazing. And they may very well have been a couple of the B-2 bombers that we sent over to Iran to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities, which, of course, was at least partly funded by this man right here in this country. So it was extraordinary. But, of course, the military might, as important as all that is, I don't think is the only thing that brought Putin to the table. What brings Putin to the table is President Trump's willingness to use what I would argue is even maybe more powerful than our military, which is our economic might. And Vladimir Putin, along with other world leaders, have come to realize that Donald Trump is somebody who means what he says, whether he's talking about the military or whether he's talking about using economic leverage. One of my favorite things, my favorite thing was the B-2 bombers going overhead. It was extraordinary. And if you get the wide screen shot, you could see Putin kind of looking up like this as they fly over. He had to have a moment of wondering, like, oh my goodness, did I just walk into something?
I think you and me both, Brian, and everyone else in this room was also surprised. We were told that we were going to have an opportunity to put questions to both leaders after a joint press conference in the event that the meeting went well enough that they could set the stage for a second meeting. And the President Trump said if that didn't happen, he was likely to call off the joint presser and just address the media solo and then send Putin home. Neither of those things happened. And what was really stunning to me as someone who's been in a lot of these press conferences is there were a few things that were very unusual. You had Putin come out and address the press first. We are on U.S. soil here, and that left the media scrambling to get their headsets in. Usually it is the leader of the country, the host country of a summit, that speaks first and addresses the room in their language. But Putin started right off in Russian, and we all had to get our headsets on and listen to him rattle off this diatribe about the history of the U.S.-Russia relationship, making some allusions to something that we didn't get many details on, but also, without knowing the full background of it, there was something that he said that was a little bit alarming, I thought, that seems like some of the things that he has done in the past, setting up false flags and that kind of thing, saying that we hope that Ukraine doesn't do anything to sabotage the progress that we made today, knowing full well that Ukraine has agreed to a ceasefire unconditionally for the last several months, and it has been Russia that has not agreed to a ceasefire. That was President Trump's main objective today. And when we did hear from the president, he said, we didn't get there, but we think that we can. So a lot of questions remaining for the President, Trump, not just about what was discussed in that room and what might be happening now, but also how that all happened back there. It was just very unusual, atypical, and I think we're all awaiting, the readout, because the way that it felt in the room was not good. It did not seem like things went well, and it seemed like Putin came in and steamrolled, got right into what he wanted to say, and got his photo next to the president and then left. Of course, that is only the piece of the picture that we have right now, and certainly President Trump, who is the host and who is the president, would not want to, I think, enable something that would make him look weak.
Well, to be continued with Russia and Ukraine, I'm hoping the U.S., President Trump, they all come to a resolution and end this war in Russia-Ukraine. That way we can focus more on the United States and what we're doing for all the American people here in this country. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. Like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Till next time, peace out, everybody.